to talk to you today on one of the most challenging international and European problems of our time. And thank you very much to the Center for Turkish Studies for inviting me here, and to Yvette Cooper for hosting this event. And we know she'll come afterwards and stay a bit with us. Refugee numbers represent the EU and its member states certainly with a huge challenge, if not a litmus test for measuring the EU's capacity to develop a common answer. And my title here is a quote from an interview with a member of the European Commission urging the EU and its member states to do more. The EU and its member states have responded indeed to the challenge with a series of legislative and also operational initiatives. And in order to assess these instruments, I think we need to provide clear benchmarks. The compass that might show us this way should be those values and norms, I think, which the EU and its member states have explicitly given themselves in the treaties and in international law. Human dignity, human rights, refugee rights, and the principles of solidarity and shared responsibility among the member states. The EU's policies with regard to the refugee crisis may be divided into three concentric circles as I see them, from the outside inwards. On the outside, firstly, the cooperation with the countries of origin and transit, and moving further to the inside on the transit route. Secondly, the fight against irregular migration and trafficking, border management systems, etc. And in an inner circle, of course, the much debated distribution of refugees across member states, the Dublin system, and all the rights refugees and asylum seekers would have once they arrive in the member states. I will give you an example for each of these three circles and ask how these examples match the standards before mentioned, in order to arrive at three theses and recommend some actions for the future. To find solutions to the Syrian crisis in its 6th year of war is vital. We all hope that the Geneva talks beginning on Friday bring about a broad ceasefire, stop the so-called Islamic State, and increase aid. UNHCR High Commissioner Filippo Grandi stated only 2 weeks ago that, quote, while the influx to Europe has finally focused the attention of the world on the Syrian crisis and the epic levels of human suffering it produces, the biggest burden so far is shouldered by communities and governments in the region. Therefore, it is of utmost importance, of course, to support host communities. And over the last 12 months, the number of registered Syrian refugees in Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt has increased by more than 1 million, bringing the overall total to almost 4.3 million. And the UNHCR expects that some 4.7 million Syrian refugees will be registered in the region by the end of this year. Donors have been very dilatory in providing funds. The so-called Regional Refugee and Resilience Plan on the UN level was only 50% funded last year. It is this shortfall which exacerbates the lack of services such as shelter, food, water, health and education, placing the host communities under an even more severe strain and causing considerable difficulties for their social cohesion. According to the UNHCR, this is the most important trigger for the large-scale movement of refugees further afield to Europe. However, the number of Syrians arriving in Europe remains low compared to Syria's neighboring countries, with slightly more than 10% of those who have fled the conflict seeking safety in Europe. And you have provided the numbers in a very informative briefing paper and report done here in the House of Commons. This is also true for the Zaatari camp in Jordan, where more than 80,000 persons are lodging in the middle of the desert, right on the Syrian border, and more than 8,000 have set out only in the last few months towards Germany. After 5 years, and with deteriorating conditions, refugees in these camps are losing all hope that there will be a way back to their homeland.